just because you're not a player doesn't mean that you aren't going to get involved in some action.
See if he does land on his head, because the back of your head can hit that turf.
Ooh, yeah,
that's
yeah.
Let's look back at 10 times that a referee found themselves between a rock and a hard place and got banged up by the action on the field. First up, we have a couple of recent instances. The first took place during a game between the Denver Broncos and the Las Vegas Raiders at Allegiant Stadium in Sin City this past season. The game was off to a decent start, with the Raiders up 10-7 early in the second quarter. Then, all of a sudden, there was a breakage in the action because the dreaded cart came out. Although, this time, it was not for an injured player like we're so used to seeing, but rather for one of the officials, Tom Stefan, who apparently tweaked his left hamstring in a pretty bad way. So much so that the NFL had to send the cart for him. Hate to see the refs operating shorthanded. They do a bad enough job with a full crew. Last thing we need is to have them a man down working with one official on the line of scrimmage and another trying to manage the rest of the field. This apparently was not the first time that Stefan has had issues with his hammy. We need to get this guy on some sort of training regimen already. You know, if he wants to keep working NFL games. Our second entry, however, is a little bit scarier. The incident took place during an AFC South battle in 2021, featuring the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Colts running back Jonathan Taylor, who's known for his insane combination of speed and strength, was running hard down the sideline during a play during the second quarter, and his momentum carried him out of bounds with plenty of speed to burn off still. And unfortunately for field judge Anthony Jeffries, the official was smack dab in the middle of Taylor's path. Now, to his credit, Jeffries bounced right back up, but he was taken into the Colts medical tent moments later for evaluation. Jeffries only ended up missing one series, but no doubt he got his bell rung pretty good on this one. After all, Taylor is 230 plus pounds of pure muscle and is one of the fastest players in the league. Safe to say Anthony Jeffries was not built to absorb a hit from the likes of JT. This one was eerily reminiscent of what we saw during a Jets-Dolphins Monday Night Football game back in 2011 when New York's running back Sean Green absolutely pummeled one of the officials, Fred Ryan. Even with the overhead camera angle, you can still almost see that deer in the headlights look come across Ryan's face as Green came barreling towards him. To his credit, Ryan shook it off like a champ, which, hey, considering how the tumble looked in real time, is honestly a little shocking. Beyond being lucky that he wasn't injured too seriously, he also is fortunate that the incident came in the fourth quarter when the Jets had the game all but won. Otherwise, the Jets fans may have been looking for him in the parking lot after the game for interfering with a big play that could have been even bigger had he been more alert. Then he would have really been at risk for another serious injury. Unfortunately for Jeff Rice, who was one of the officials from a 2017 bout between the Denver Broncos and New England Patriots, he was not so lucky. Not because the fans came after him with torches and pitchforks, but rather because his on-the-field injury resulted in him getting knocked unconscious and carted off the field. Check out this slow-mo replay that the NBC cameras caught. Ooh, that whiplash is nasty. The way his head just sort of ricochets off the cold hard ground and he just sort of goes limp? Yeesh, that is downright frightening. Fortunately, he came to while being carted out. But man, just check out that confused look on his face. It really makes you wonder why the NFL has these dinosaurs officiating games, especially considering the pace of today's action. They really need to be incentivizing younger people, perhaps even recent collegiate players, to train as officials. I mean, they have the resources to do so. Make it happen, NFL. Next up, we have an instance that took place during the first quarter of a game between the Denver Broncos and Baltimore Ravens in 2015. During this game, NFL line judge Gary Arthur, who at 58 was another great example of a ref unfit for duty after he sustained a major injury during a punt return play. Now, in this case, it wasn't Arthur's inability to react to the play in front of him, but rather his utter lack of awareness, as he had his back turned to a rapidly unfolding punt return. And of course, his relative fragility was put on display when he shattered 9 ribs on this fall. What made this one even scarier is the damage to his ribs also resulted in a collapsed lung. Ouch! Arthur was then carted off the field to play, and the only bright side being that he was able to at least get into the cart under his own power. Coincidentally, this was not the only Ravens game we've seen a ref get injured in. We saw another nasty collision take place during a late November AFC North matchup with the Bengals back in 2011. This all started when Ravens defensive back Jimmy Smith made an interception near Cincinnati's 30-yard line. There was a load of traffic ahead of him, but with the end zone in striking distance, he started streaking toward the goal line. But a Bengals player snuck up behind him and jarred the ball loose. That right there was when it all started to go downhill for referee Ron Winters. The loose ball appeared to have some sort of zebra-seeking radar built into it, and it just started sporadically bouncing in his direction. Winters, to his credit, was able to walk off the bruising and completed the game. But man, you have to think he spent a good week or two pretty banged up from that kind of trampling. This isn't the only time that we've seen a referee get mangled by inadvertently getting mixed into the action with the players. During the 2021 Thanksgiving Day matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and Las Vegas Raiders, exactly that happened to side judge Tom Hill. In this case, however, it wasn't an unlucky bounce of the pigskin that put Hill in harm's way, but rather a fight between players that he got sucked into, like some sort of old Looney Tunes skit. The fight resulted in Cowboys cornerback Kelvin Joseph and Raiders safety Roderick Teamer getting ejected from the game, and rightfully so, because when Hill emerged from the rubble, he was bleeding from his face as a result of catching a few stray swings. I suppose as an NFL referee, you never know where trouble might be lurking, as we've seen officials even get injured by fans. This one goes way back, all the way back to 1975 to be exact, during an NFC divisional playoff game between the Cowboys, and this time, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this game in question is not just famous for the incident we are going to get into, but also because it was the inception of the Hail Mary. The Vikings fans were irate, not just because their team lost on a back-breaking heave, but also because Pearson got away with a massive push-off while he was completing the catch. And that was the second extremely controversial call on the final Cowboys drive. Minnesota had one more chance, albeit a very small one, during which the crowd descended into chaos and decided to take matters into their own hands. People began firing objects down onto the field. And horrifically, Armin Terzian, the field judge for the game, got drilled in the head by a half-empty bottle of whiskey, and as a result, he had to have his head wrapped up on the field before being helped off of it. Next, we jump back to more modern times, when we saw what can only be described as one of the more, well, embarrassing injuries on this list. Most of the injuries we've seen refs sustain thus far have stemmed from them being victims of circumstance. During a Dolphins and Patriots game in September of 2016, New England was blowing the doors off Miami with a then little-known backup named Jimmy Garoppolo under center. With the score at 31-10, official Andre Walsh was stepping forward to spot the ball when he suddenly went crashing down onto the ground. Now, I hate to kick a guy while he's down, no pun intended, but you really can't be sustaining non-contact injuries moving at the turtle-like speed Walsh was moving at. That just tells me you're not physically fit enough for the occupation. Walsh, who ultimately missed 3 games that year, ended up retiring at the end of the season. So I guess he took the hint from his body. Good for him, I guess. Anyway, last but not least, let's end this off with the only female referee to end up on the most unfortunate list. One Sarah Thomas. Thomas was working a Week 16 game between the Minnesota Vikings and Green Bay Packers in 2016 as a line judge when disaster struck. Minnesota completed a pass down the sideline, and Kyle Rudolph, the man formerly known as Big Country, went stumbling out of bounds right towards Thomas. And even if she tried to play it cool, smiling through the pain and visibly mouthing that she was okay, there was no denying that Sarah Thomas went down hard. I mean, look at that whiplash, my God! That looked like the way someone's head would whip back during a car accident. Thomas was quickly evaluated under the concussion protocol, but returned to the action for the end of the game. It was later revealed that Thomas actually broke her wrist during this collision too, so I don't know how fine she really was. But hey, kudos to her for putting on a brave face during and after this nasty collision. But what do you think was the worst instance of an NFL referee getting injured in the middle of the action on the field? Was there anyone that we missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.